Hi everybody, it's Sally from Room for Art, and today I wanted to show you how to make these little felted bowls using the wet felting method that we tried last time. They're very cute and simple to make, and the basic idea behind wet felting around a 3D object is you need a resist to go inside it, and today we're going to use a lemon as our resist. So this lemon goes inside the felt, and then we felt around it to create this 3D shape. So I will show you how we do that. So I've got my towel down to catch the water, I've got my bubble wrap, a lemon obviously, I've also got some hot soapy water and a bit of extra soap and hot water if it gets cool, and I've got my felt. I've already shredded up my bits of felt, but you can remember how we did that last time by just pulling the fibres apart a little bit and then pulling from the top to get sections of felt. And remember, we want to be working with quite thin bits of felt. If it's too chunky, then it won't felt as well. So I've already got my colours laid out here. Other things that are useful but not completely essential, if you have a pair of old tights, then you can cut the bottom off. This is where your foot goes. Cut it about sock length, and this is a really useful thing for keeping all your felt around the lemon whilst you're working. The nylon of the tights won't felt into the fabric, so that will mean that you can create some friction without adding a bit of tights to your work. So old tights are really useful. Or you could also use one of these garlic bags that you get from the supermarket. This was from Lidl. This one had 3 garlics in it, so it's quite big, but you can get the really big ones. I've got like 10 garlics in them. They're really useful. So that works the same basically as the piece of tights, but I'm going to use the tights for today. If you don't have either of these and you can't get them, that's fine. The bubble wrap will do totally fine. So, and one last thing, you can also use a little Ziploc bag for extra protection later on, but I'll show you how all that works. So I'm going to take my lemon and start layering up my felt, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking sections that I've already teased out and covering the lemon. So we want to try our best not to have any yellow showing by the time we've covered this lemon, and we're going to go for about 3 or 4 layers of felt to make sure that our bowl is nice and strong. So I'm just going to tease out the fibres and lay it on, and remember to kind of crisscross your fibres and layer up your colours as well. And I'm just holding the lemon really kind of gently, and just like wrapping and enveloping it in the felt. So just kind of pass it carefully from one hand to the other to as you're working. You can place it down on the table as well if you find it easier. There we go. And building up these kind of fine layers, moving your lemon around, checking that you're covering any gaps and kind of gently smoothing the felt over the top. I would advise not to use yellow felt the first time you do this, which is something that I did, because then it's really hard to tell where the felt is and where the lemon is. So maybe save yellow for the next time you do it. And with this, you're not going to get the colours precisely in any particular place, so don't worry too much about that. Be more mindful of covering your yellow up and making sure that you get some nice even layers, because if your layers are uneven, then that will mean that some parts of your felted bowl will be very dense and some parts will be a bit too weak. So try to concentrate on getting a nice even coverage is what we're after. And add in those colours as you go. You might want to start with a base colour if that's the kind of way that you like to work, or you might go for more of a kind of mishmash, whatever way works for you really. And enjoy putting your colours together. You can see kind of the new colours that come around when you layer up your felt. And also you can see when like new colours are formed using even just like white or dark felt that can bring new tones into your felting. So we're pretty much there, I think. I might add a little bit of extra purple because it's quite a pale colour. Once you've got your layers done that are kind of more structural, those 3 or 4 layers, you can start to add in little chunks that are a bit thicker, maybe to add in a bit more specific colour. You could twirl them together a little bit and add some shots of colour. And the more layers you add, the more the thicker your bowl will be. So be mindful of that. If you layer it up loads and loads and loads, it might take quite a while to felt. But then if you really enjoy felting, maybe that's a good thing. And let's add a couple of extra little shots of this really vibrant yellow. I'm going to just add really small bits in. As you get more confident with the felting, you can start to see kind of how you can add colour in a different way. I'm just trapping the yellow with my thumb and then pulling the fibres away to add a couple of shots of colour. And also remember that, you don't know what this will come out like, so you can do a little bit of planning but also be kind of ready and excited for the changes and the unknown part. So I've covered my lemon there, and I'm just going to gently pick it up, and this is the point where we're going to cover it. So if you have your bit of tights, I'm going to put my hand inside my bit of tights here, and I'm going to grab the lemon and put it round. If you were using your net bag, I would do the same thing, just get it inside out and then pop it inside there. And if you're just using bubble wrap, then what I would suggest is wet your lemon very, very carefully first and then wrap it in the bubble wrap. But I'm going to go for the tights because that's the most effective method I've found. So I'm going to put my hand inside, make a nice big claw and just grab the lemon and wrap the rest of it around. There we go, and you can kind of push things back into shape a little bit if they've moved around, but generally you want your lemon in there and there should be a nice squidginess around the whole thing. That's where your felt is. And then I'm going to tie a little knot in the top just to make sure that it all doesn't come out. This is a great way to use tights that have got a hole in them or are a bit old. You can recycle them and use them. So if you don't have tights or you don't wear tights, then ask around family and friends. See if anyone's got a pair of tights you can cut up because they're really useful in this. And now I'm just going to dunk this in the hot water with the soap in it. Get it all nice and wet. Squish it in so that it really penetrates all the layers, and make sure you get plenty of bubbles on there. There we go. Lots and lots. You don't want to squeeze all the water off, but you can do a few layers. See if you could just catch as many bubbles as you can. So it's just all nice and sudsy like that. If you've not got enough suds on your bowl, then you can just rub a piece of soap onto it as well, and that'll just help to create those suds too. And if you would like to keep a little drier during this process, then you can pop this inside your Ziploc bag and lock that up, and that'll keep most of the water inside there. I'm not going to bother with that for now. Instead, I'm going to wrap it in my bubble wrap, because remember the bubble wrap adds friction, and then I'm going to start that felting process of rolling it around, and you'll start to see the water coming out. But I'm just going to keep rolling it around, making sure that the bubble wrap is all wrapped around it. If you have a rubber band, again, I forgot my rubber bands this time, but if you have a rubber band, you could wrap that around the lemon. I'm going to work quite fast, but you can take it at your own pace. Just rolling it around, getting lots and lots of friction in there. Seeing those soap suds start to come up. And you want to do this for a good few minutes to start that felting process. You can even like pick it up and rub it in your hands like this once it's got going. It's a nice warming thing to do on your hands whilst it's cold outside. I actually did this in the park with some children in December, and it was a lovely way of keeping our hands warm actually. We use nice hot soapy water, and we did put it in the Ziploc bags so that we didn't get quite as soapy as this. I'm going to wrap it up again, give it a roll. And remember, the towel and the bubble wrap and the tights will be adding some friction to the surface and getting it to all start felting together. And that heat from the water will also be helping. So remember to use hot water. If you use cool water, then it doesn't open up all the hooks on the wool fibre enough to felt it quickly. So we want it to be nice and warm. And if it's cooling down, you could even re-dunk it in hot water. Add a little bit of extra hot if you've got it. Make sure you can still touch it, obviously. You don't want it to be too hot, but nice and warm. That opens up the fibres of the wool and gets all those hooks open, ready to hook into each other like we talked about in the last felting video. If you haven't had a go at felting yet and you want to try flat felting first, there is another video on the Room for Art YouTube page that starts off with flat felting, and that we go a little bit more in depth into the process of felting, but this is a bit speedier to show you the 3D method. So the lemon inside my tights and my felt is acting as a resist, and what resist does is it shapes the felt. As we felt it, it shapes it so that it becomes that 3D form. So you could use lots of different things as resists. A lot of felters use balloons because they're easy to get out afterwards. And you can also change the size of them. You know, you can blow them up lots or use them quite small. So a lot of people use balloons. You could use other fruit, you know, a bigger or smaller fruit like a citrus fruit, a grapefruit somebody was talking about trying. So we'll see if they do that. It'd be good to see the results. And you can also build your own resists. There's lots of videos online on YouTube about how to make felting resists out of like plastic and wood and things like that. So you can have a little look. You could make your own resist. I know somebody else showed on the Facebook page, there was a video of somebody making slippers by felting around their partner's feet. So, you know, if you've got a very willing person who'll sit still for a while, you could make some slippers by felting around their feet. I'm going to really go for it for just a few more seconds. I would advise doing this for maybe about 5 minutes and then checking how you're doing. So let's have a little look and see how we're doing now, shall we? So I'm going to undo my tights and pop out my lemon and see how we're doing. So you can see that the felting has already really started to take place and it's created this felted surface. The longer you do it, the tighter it'll be. I would do it for a little bit longer, but I don't want to make this video really long, so I'll take mine out for now. And you can see that as I pull the tights off, all those fibres are pulling away. They're not sticking to the tights too badly, so it's quite easy to remove. There we go. And you can see mine's a little bit fluffy because I haven't done it for that long, but you can see that all the felting has really started to happen on the surface of this lemon. And now I can start to do that a little bit more by hand without my tights. And I'm rolling my lemon around a lot to make sure that I'm doing all of the surfaces, not just focusing on one part, but making sure the ends get done, the bottom and the top, all the sides, every part is felted. And the longer you do this, the more your felt will all become a proper felted surface. And the tighter it'll become and the more kind of dense it will become. So you could carry on doing this for a while. And you don't have to do it all in one go, you know, you could do a bit, leave it, come back, put it in hot water again. So it's not like you have to complete the whole thing in one go. And you can wear gloves, you know, latex gloves, if you find that all the soap irritates your hands. So that's fine as well. Mine's looking pretty good now. It's quite soapy, as you can see. But that's all right. I might just give it a quick rinse so we can see it a bit better. Squeeze some of that water out. And you can see the lemon shape, but you can also see all these lovely colours and things that are coming through. So now I'm going to decide which is the top and which is the bottom. I think I'm going to cut around this bit here. Yeah, that looks about right. Although maybe I want that to be the maybe I'll cut around here. So I'm going to cut top. You want to cut about a 10p piece. You might want to make your hands less soapy when you do this. I'm going to cut from the top about a 10p piece. I've got some quite sharp little scissors and I'm just going to cut the top off like this. And the top parts become these really lovely little coin shaped artworks in themselves. So, you know, if you do lots of these, you could keep them and use them in card making or sewing and things like that. But I've cut my little top off and you can see the edge there, you can see the felted layers and things like that, and I'm just going to get my finger in there whilst it's still wet and soapy, and I'm just going to ease my finger all the way around, twisting the lemon as I go to just widen that hole, because you guessed it, we're going to have to pop the lemon out of the hole. So we're going to just start to squeeze the lemon out of that hole, kind of pulling it down with our fingers. I put my thumbs at the bottom usually and then pull down with my fingers, and that helps. And what this does is it gets the lemon out, but it also widens the top of your bowl to the widest part of your lemon. So that means that the top of your bowl won't be smaller than the middle, if you see what I mean. It'll be a nice even shape. So I'm just going to pop that out. Whoop! Slidey lemon. And then you can see we've got this little bowl shape. And whilst it's still wet and soapy, you can shape it a little bit more. Maybe rub the bottom on your palm to get a flatter bottom. You can stretch that edge out a little bit more. Rub the edges to get a neater edge. Stretch it out. You could even kind of pinch around the bottom where you want it to be flat. Go round and round and round and pinch and rub to get that edge a bit more defined. And then again, rubbing the bottom on my palm to felt that even more and stop it being so rounded. You don't have to do this part, it's completely up to you what size and shape your bowl is. I like to make a flat bottom, so you could even rub that flat bottom a bit more on the bubble wrap to get that felting a little bit more. Rub it on the inside as well. And just generally shape it with your fingers. It's almost like working with clay at this point, but with a bit more added friction. So you can just manipulate it whilst it's wet and soapy, and kind of shape it into the shape you would like it to be. Remember that whilst you're doing this, it's kind of shrinking all the time, so don't be alarmed if it turns out a little bit small. But just keep felting and rubbing that bottom part into place. takes a little bit of practice, so don't worry if your bowl is a little bit wonky on the first go. And then you can see you've got this extremely cute little felt pot. So you want to shape it until you're happy with it and then give it a rinse. If you rinse it in hot water first, it'll shrink even more. And then always finish by rinsing it in cold water, getting all the soap out, finish it in cold water, and that'll kind of set it. And then I just let mine dry on the radiator. And you could cut into them and you could sew into them and you do all sorts with them. They're very, very fun to make. Right, I hope that that was useful and interesting. If you have any questions, please just get in touch. And I'm sure I can answer them. But if you try any other fruits or objects inside As You Resist, please share them with us on the Facebook page. I'd love to see them. All right then. Well, thanks so much for joining and have a lovely day.